The Spoon Theory by Christine Miserandino. Christine and her best friend were eating dinner one night at their favorite restaurant, talking about boys, music and trivial things, and just having a good time and laughing at silly things. As Christine was taking her pills with a snack like she usually did, her best friend stared at her and asked her, "Christine, how does it feel to have lupus?" Christine was a bit taken back. I mean, this is her best friend for years, her college roommate. She's been through it all with her. She's seen Christine fall. She's seen her walk with a cane. She sat alongside Christine in the bathroom for hours because of nausea. She's seen Christine cry endless nights because of the pain. So Christine started to ramble off about pills and aches and pains, but her friend didn't really seem satisfied with any of her answers. She wanted to know how it really felt like to have lupus. Not physically, but what it felt like to Christine to be sick. Christine glanced around the restaurant to stall for a bit of time as she tried to think of a way to answer this question that she's never really been able to answer herself. And she realized that if she doesn't at least try, how can she expect her best friend, or in that matter the whole world, to ever fully understand? And at that moment, the spoon theory was born. Christine grabbed every spoon off of every table in sight, looked her friend in the eye, shoved the spoons into her hand and said, "Here you go, you have lupus." Her best friend had a slightly confused face, as would anyone when being handed a bouquet of spoons. Christine explained that the difference in being sick and the difference in being healthy is having to make choices or to consciously think about things when the rest of the world doesn't have to. Healthy people have the luxury of a life without choices, a gift most people take for granted. Most people start their day off with unlimited amounts of possibilities and energy to do whatever they desire. For the most part, they never really need to worry about the consequences of their actions. So Christine used spoons to convey this point. She wanted something for her best friend to actually hold, for Christine to then take away, since most people who are sick feel a loss of life they once knew. If Christine was in control of taking away the spoons, then her friend would know what it feels like to have someone or something else, in this case lupus, being in control. So Christine asked her friend to count her spoons. She asked why, and Christine explained that when you are healthy, you expect to have a never-ending supply of spoons. But when you have to plan your day, you have to know exactly how many spoons you are starting with. This doesn't guarantee that you might lose some spoons along the way, but it at least helps to know where you are starting. So she counted out 12 spoons and laughed and said she wanted more. Christine said, "No, I've wanted more spoons for years and I haven't yet found a way to get more." She also told her that she must always be conscious of how many spoons she has, and she can't drop them because she can never forget that she has lupus. She then asked her friend to list off the tasks of her day, even the most simple, like chores or simple fun things to do, and explained that each task would cost her at least 1 spoon. Her friend started and said, "Well, I jump out of bed and I get ready for work." Christine stopped her immediately and said, "No, you don't just jump out of bed and get ready for work. You have to crack open your eyes and realize that you are late because you have not had enough sleep the night before due to lupus insomnia. Then you have to sit up in all your pain, walk to the kitchen, make yourself something to eat so that you can take your pills, because if you don't eat before taking your pills, your stomach might burn because of the medication. And if you don't take your meds first thing in the morning, then you might as well give up all your spoons for today and tomorrow as well." And just like that, a spoon was taken away. Then Christine continued to say, "You have to get into the shower after waiting half an hour to an hour for your medication to kick in so that you're actually able to take a shower, which will cost you another spoon because reaching high and low and scrubbing and washing your hair and showering will actually cost you 2 spoons. Now comes the fun part, getting dressed. Simple, right? I think not. Now you have to think about the weather, how you are feeling, and what you think you are capable of wearing for that day. Sounds silly, I know, but let me break it down to you. If it is cold, you have to pack on an extra 3 layers than a healthy person would, because if your muscles get cold, then they pain. And just stretching and putting your arms through all those layers is a lot. If your hands hurt, buttons are out of the question. If you are feverish, you have to make sure that your outfit accommodates for the hot and cold. If you have bruises, you need to wear a long sleeve. If your hair is falling out, then you need to spend a little bit more extra time to make yourself look a bit more presentable. And then you have to factor in another 5 minutes because you feel bad that all this took you a whole 2 hours to accomplish. Gosh, just thinking about this cost a spoon. Christine could see that her best friend was starting to understand, as theoretically she hasn't even gone to work yet and she only had 6 spoons left. Christine continued to explain that she has to choose the rest of her day wisely, because as soon as the spoons are gone, they're gone. Gone. That. Bye. You can borrow some of tomorrow's spoons, but just imagine how hard tomorrow will be with less spoons. Christine also needed to explain that a person who is sick lives with this looming thought that tomorrow may be the day that a cold comes, or an infection, or any number of things that can be very dangerous to someone with lupus. So you never want to run low on spoons, because you never know when you might truly need them. So they went through the rest of the day, and she slowly learned that just driving to work would cost her a spoon. Skipping lunch would cost her a spoon. Just sitting at the computer the whole day typing would cost her a spoon. She was forced to think about her decisions and realize that every choice had a consequence. When they got to the end of her pretend day, Christine explained that she only had one spoon left. Now she has to choose wisely, as cooking dinner would cost her a spoon, and then she would be too tired to clean the pots. If she went out to dinner, she might be too tired to drive back home safely, and she should just remember that while doing all this, there's a very high chance of her being nauseous. But she has to eat, otherwise she won't be able to take her medication, and we all know what that means. So Christine's friend decided to make a cup of soup, which took minimal effort and actually saved her from using her last spoon. Now, Christine explained, it's 7 p.m. and you only have one spoon left. Now you have to choose the rest of your evening wisely before going to bed. You can maybe do a few chores or something fun like a hobby or clean the house, but you cannot do it all. You have to choose only one, otherwise you're going to take from tomorrow's spoons. Christine could see that she was finally getting through to her best friend, as her friend asked, Christine, how do you do this? Do you really do this every day? So she explained that some days are worse than others. Some days she has more spoons than most, but she can never make it go away. She can't forget about it. She has to think about it all the time. So Christine took out a spoon that she had been holding in reserve, and she simply said, I have learned to live life with an extra spoon in my pocket in reserve. You always need to be prepared. One of the most hardest things for lupus warriors to learn is to learn to slow down. It's so frustrating having to say no to going out, or missing a lunch date, or missing out on things they so desperately want to be a part of. Everything everybody ever does comes so easy, but for lupus warriors, not so much. They have to think about the weather that day, how they are feeling, and they have to plan out their whole entire day before attacking one little task. When other people can just simply do things, they have to attack it like they're strategizing for war. They miss that freedom of just doing things without having to count the spoons the whole time. After Christine and her best friend got emotional about this and talked about it for a little while longer, Christine sensed her friend was sad, so she took out that extra spoon that she'd been holding in her pocket in reserve and said, Don't worry, I see this as a blessing. I have been forced to think about everything I do. Do you know how many spoons people waste every day? I don't have room for wasted time or wasted spoons, and I choose to spend this time with you, and handed her best friend that extra last spoon. Ever since that night, Christine used the spoon theory to explain her life as a lupus warrior to many people. In fact, she saw how her friends and family referred to the spoons all the time. It has become a code word for what she can and cannot do. Once people understand the spoon theory, they start to understand lupus a little bit better. But I think they live their life a little differently too. I think it isn't just good for understanding lupus, but anyone dealing with a disability or illness. I mean, they give a piece of themselves in everything they do. It has become a joke in the lupus community. Christine has actually become famous for jokingly saying that people should feel special when she spends time with them, as they have one of her spoons. To all the lupus warriors out there, don't spend them on things that would make you feel guilty if you did not do it. Forget about the guilt. Forget about how other people might feel or might not understand. These spoons are precious, as they are part of keeping you healthy and alive. To everyone that has a lupus warrior as a family member or a friend, we hope this helps you to understand a bit better what is it like to have lupus, and why lupus warriors choose to do things or not to do things. Maybe this can help you in your own personal journey, whatever you may be going through. Thank you everybody. Again, this is the story of Christine Miserandino, the Spoon Theory.